All right, I'm going to use the most interesting 2/3 of that for the after show. Now let's start the real show.
Yeah, good idea.
Oh, goodness. Hey, so I hear it was Christmas at the Syracuse household already.
Yeah, the tiny little package arrived that weighed a lot.
Yeah, I was very proud of that.
It seemed very dense, and it really shows how little Marco cared about the old Kindles that he sent me. Because he packed them together by stacking them one on top of each other. Like they were their own packing material. Like nothing in between them, no like bubble wrap, tissue paper, just
I put the crappiest one on top.
it's just a bunch of Kindles and other e-readers jammed together into a solid brick.
Well, they stack very well.
Yeah, it was
except for the damn Kindle one, which is wedge-shaped. Everything else stacks really well.
Yeah, I think they managed to, like, the original Kindle, like, the back cover had come off in transit, but I don't think anything was broken on it. And the Kindle Touch has a thing in the upper left corner where it's damaged. Was that already there?
What kind of thing? Is it like I think there's like a small, like a tiny scratch on the screen up there, maybe?
Yeah, it's like a little spot that's, like, permanently black. Like a little,
a dead pixel?
Well, no, it's bigger than that. It's like someone took like a flathead screwdriver and bink and jammed into the screen. So it's like a little crack slash area. It's not big. It's
nope, that's new. Sorry.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, the Kindles came when we opened them up at the table with all the kids are there and all these Kindles coming out, and surprising things happened because Marco, I put this in the show notes, and Marco's like, "Well, there's nothing to say about that. It's not that exciting." And it's a bunch of old Kindles. I thought I would just take them, put them up into the attic. These just the two surprising things that happened. One, the first thing my son said when he saw all these things is, "Can I have a Kindle Fire?" I didn't mention Kindle Fire. I didn't show him that there was a Kindle Fire in this stack of things, but he quickly surmised that in this giant stack of things that I said are Kindles, one of them might be a Kindle Fire, and that's the one that he want.
Interesting.
And this is before any of them were turned on. So that means that the Kindle Fire has good brand recognition among young kids whose parents don't want them to have a really expensive iPad.
That's really interesting. Although he apparently didn't know enough about them to recognize that if you're going to have any Kindle Fire, the one I sent you, which is the very first one, is by far the worst one you can possibly have.
It's just a big stack of stuff. And the thing is, it doesn't really make any sense because our iPad 2 is basically the kids' iPads 2. And my daughter doesn't really use the iPad 2. So it's basically his iPad 2. So he's sort of has an iPad 2 that he can use more or less whenever he wants. And he still wanted a Kindle Fire because I guess he thought it would be his. Right? And the second reaction is my daughter said, "Oh, can I have a Kindle?" And I said, "Yes, you can." And she said, "Yay!" So there you go. Kids love Kindles. I was trying to decide which one to give her. Like, we're going to put some books on it. She's learning to read and stuff like that. My son already has an old e-ink Kindle that we had that he reads on and everything like that. She's just starting to read. And I decided to actually give her the Kindle Touch because, as anyone with young kids knows, you put a Kindle in front of them, they touch the screen immediately. And why wouldn't they? Like, anything that you can't touch a screen on is obviously broken. And so the Kindle Touch, you actually can touch the screen. I kind of regretted it because sometimes she wants to use her finger to trace, like when you're reading the words, and that doesn't really work that well on a Kindle Touch because as soon as you touch, it changes the page or whatever. But trying to give her one that you had to use like the cursor controls or something to do books, I think that would be more difficult than. And the Kindle Touch has fewer like buttons and things you could bump on the edges and accidentally turn pages. So yeah, you made a bunch of people happy with. Although I told my son he couldn't have the Kindle Fire because I don't want him using that thing.
I don't blame you.
And he's already got his reading Kindle. He's got his iPad, so he doesn't really need it. So he got over it. But yeah, everyone was excited by the arrival of Kindles in the house.
I first heard like when the Kindle Fire came out. What was it? 2 years ago now, roughly. I first heard when it first came out. There was this massive common refrain I heard from people, which was that they were men, of course, because they're nerds on the internet, and it's way too predominantly male still. And they were men who were buying Kindle Fires to give their wife a tablet. Which, if you think about the quality of the Kindle Fire, not only is this a fairly derogatory thing to do, but I wonder if any of those caused marital problems. I mean, it is such an incredibly terrible device. I can't imagine that ended up well.
Have you seen the new one? The HDX, whatever it's called?
I haven't. No. Is it any better?
I've seen it, and they're getting way better. Like, if you compare the Kindle Fire you sent me compared to the new one, it's like night and day. Like, the new one is not embarrassing anymore. The only thing that I think is embarrassing about the new one is that it's externally asymmetrical, which I find incredibly offensive.
Wait, what? It is? In what direction?
Like, if you're looking at it in a portrait orientation and you're gripping it, one side is thicker than the other. It's like weird trapezoid back shape. It's for the origami style kind of case that it comes with. I mean, it makes sense in the context of the case that the thing like slots into the case because there's kind of like a tapered trapezoid on the back.
Oh, weird.
It's weird, but it bothers me way more than it should. Because like, who cares? Who cares what shape the back of the thing is, right? But I do. I don't want it. I want it to be symmetrical. I want a thing that I hold. It just seems wrong to me. But the screen is really, really nice. The interface is no longer disgustingly laggy. If you wanted to give somebody something that all they're going to do on it is watch Amazon instant streaming video and read books filled with typos, it would be fine. I wouldn't buy it for anyone who wants to use applications, obviously, but they've come a long way.
That's good. I mean, they had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, this thing is like a brick. It's sitting right next to me. It's I'd seen them when they were new, but it's like, was this always this huge? It's terrible.
And imagine, like, so many people bought that because it was sold as the premium Kindle. Like, if you wanted an e-ink Kindle, you should consider upgrading to this. And if you're reading on it, it is in almost every way substantially worse than the e-ink Kindles. and it's just so many people bought that as an upgrade, but that probably did not turn out well.
You could fend off muggers with it, I guess. And, and the back of it is that nice textured plastic or rubberized stuff. I like.
Yeah, the back felt all right.
I like things, but like it's so heavy. You can like holding this in one hand, forget it. Whereas the e-ink Kindles, like they're so light now, they're like practically like a piece of paper. It's so much nicer to hold in one hand.
Yeah. All right, let me take our first sponsor break. This episode is sponsored by our friends at File Transporter. Go to filetransporter.com to learn more, and you can use coupon code ATP for 10% off of any transporter you buy from them. So, what is File Transporter? Transporter is by some people who were at Drobo, left, got so good at building this thing called Transporter that Drobo bought them again, and now they're back at Drobo. So, Transporter is your own private cloud storage solution. It's a hard drive in an enclosure that you own and control. And there's no monthly fees. You could buy this thing up front, and then you own it and control it. And then they give you software that lets you access it from your computer, much like Dropbox. And then Transporter can even sync to other Transporter devices on your network or over the internet. And so you can replicate things between Transporters. You can have constant online backup going. It's great for large photo storage that we were talking about last week because you're using your own bandwidth, using your own storage. It's fantastic. So Transporter is also great for collaboration and sharing and working with files with other people because, like Dropbox, you can have a shared folder. But these files are only on your device. There is no cloud copy of them. There's no copy on Transporter servers. You have these files, and you can have it replicate to somebody else, and it's all secure. It's encrypted end-to-end. You can back up photos from your iOS device. You can copy files from your computer. You can use it as primary storage, secondary storage. It is fantastic. It's totally private, totally encrypted, no fees per month. You try to store a terabyte of data on Dropbox, and you're going to see a lot of those fees building up pretty quickly. So Transporter is awesome. You can share confidential documents. You can work on them securely. You can share home movies and photos. You can share links to people over email where the file's too big for email. You can automatically even copy data to an offsite location. You can have a transporter at your house, a transporter at your friend's house, or your parents' house, or your office, or somebody else's office, and everything can just replicate, and you can have a built-in backup that way. It's really a fantastic product. So go to filetransporter.com. Check this out. If you use coupon code ATP, you can get 10% off any of the devices in the File Transporter store. And they range from $100 to $400, from 0 terabytes up to 2 terabytes, excuse me. And if you even have your own drive, you can plug it into the cheap one, and it's really fantastic. So check out File Transporter at filetransporter.com, and thanks a lot for sponsoring the show.
We got a lot, or I don't know if I should say we got, but we saw a lot of interesting news that may or may not be news about PhotoStream. And John, you seem to have taken point and prepared some notes for the show that we don't prepare for.
Marco and Casey wouldn't let him.
Do you want to walk through kind of what we've learned over the last week?
Yeah, since we talked so much about Everpix on a couple past shows, a couple of people on Twitter sent me a link to a recently updated Apple knowledge base article about PhotoStream. And we'll have the link in the show notes. And here's some text from one of them. It says, there is no limit to the amount of photos you can upload to My PhotoStream over a longer period, such as several months or years. Photos uploaded to My PhotoStream or shared photo streams are not counted against our iCloud storage. Well, we knew that about the iCloud storage. And so we used to think, oh, well, there was an upload limit of 1,000, but now it says there's no limit, right? And that began the conversation amongst all the people on Twitter, finding other knowledge base articles and saying, yeah, but here's this knowledge base article that has an even later date that says it's still limited to 1,000. And then there were people experimenting by saying, okay, I've got 1,000 photos in my stream. I will take one more picture, and I see the first picture just went off the end, and it still says I have 1,000. And then people saying, well, that's just what's on your phone. Really, all of them are on your server. I went on vacation, took 3,000 pictures. Only 1,000 were on my phone, but when I came home and went to iPhoto, all 3,000 were in my photo stream. And this went back and forth and back and forth. I think we should just put all these links in the show notes. People can look at them. My takeaway from all of this is that regardless of what the situation actually is, experimentally determined from Apple's documents, however you want to do it, it's obviously still way too confusing for us to figure out. And the most important feature of Everpix was not how it behaved. It was the fact that you could explain it very simply. We keep all your photos forever. They're stored in the cloud. Period. The end. Anything that you have to look at all these documents and have a big Twitter conversation about and try to read the tea leaves on is missing the most important feature, which is simplicity and understandability. So I'm not even sure what the current situation is. The upload limit stuff seems straightforward because you just say, well, they're just saying how many you can upload. They don't say anything about how many they keep or how many will be re-downloaded or anything like that. And I think pretty much people have determined it'll only keep 1,000 on your device in the stream and 5,000 in each shared stream. But I'm still not entirely sure about, okay, well, so given all those constraints, will it do like the guy who went on vacation said, and yeah, you only have 1,000 on your main photo stream on your phone, but when you get home and iPhoto syncs with your photo stream, will it pull down all your pictures? Like, there's no good way, as far as I know, to, like the equivalent of Everpix. You go to the Everpix website, and there's all your pictures. The cloud is the source of truth. Your pictures are in the cloud, and they may be on local machines as a caching type thing. And PhotoStream and everything, we're still not sure. So I think Apple may be making progress here, or maybe they just changed the upload limit or a throttling thing. I don't know, but it's kind of one of those things where all the incremental steps don't really matter until they get to the point where they just say, don't worry about it. It's simple. We got you covered, and here's how it works, and here's how you can feel secure knowing that it worked. Because right now, I don't think anyone feels secure in their knowledge of exactly how PhotoStream works with all their devices. I know I certainly don't.
Yeah, I don't either. And this, I was thinking as you were narrating all this feels so, I don't know, Microsoft-like, like, oh, well, it's this except one that, and then there's this except one this other thing. And it's so blurry and weird. And it's so not the way Apple usually is. And just like you said, I mean, it needs to be simple. And one thing, and I don't have the piece of feedback handy, but somebody sent us some interesting feedback with some back-of-the-napkin calculations as to how much data storing every iOS user's pictures from the beginning of time would really take up. And I don't remember the answer off the top of my head, and I'm not even sure that they were right, but suffice to say, it was a metric crap ton of data that they would need, or of hard drive space they would need in order to store all of these pictures from everyone under the sun. So perhaps what made Everpix even mildly doable was simply that they weren't trying to do it for everyone. They were trying to do it for thousands or tens of thousands of users.
I mean, the storage, like a storage for individuals, especially, I mean, maybe the sharing stuff has some angle on it, but there's not the type of, it's not the type of service like, I don't know, Twitter or Facebook where everybody's seeing everybody else's stuff, where the complexity and difficulty really ramps up as you add more things. You can kind of silo this. If you can support, 10 people, you can just multiply that out to support thousands and millions. And yes, it costs tons and tons of money, but if it's profitable for whatever, Everpix said they'd be profitable at like 20,000 people. Well, if it's profitable at 20,000, presumably it'd still be profitable at 40, at 60, at 90. And it's like, oh, that costs so much money. Look at all this storage. Yeah, it costs lots of money. Apple has billions of dollars. Maybe you'd have to have an upfront investment. But if it's profitable at 20,000 for this little dinky company, hopefully Apple at 400 million, it could still be profitable, or at least break even. Or maybe it's even a little bit of a cost center. But, like I said, it may be just the cost of doing business eventually. And the PhotoStream stuff is kind of like bargaining. It's like, how about this, guys? How about We will store all your pictures, and like the shared photo streams are way better than it used to be for sharing photos. Like I use them all the time with my family because it's easier than it used to be, and they don't have to do anything. If they have an iOS device, if I put a picture in my shared photo stream, it appears and they can look at it right there. And that's better than emailing them pictures. That's even better than, in the old days making a .Mac website and giving them the URL of the website and they would look at and all this stuff. So I like photo streams, but I think Apple was hoping if we make this constrained service and we put these numbers up, 1,000 pictures, blah, 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 whatever, we won't have these crazy storage demands and maybe this will solve the problem. And I think it helps, but it doesn't, solve the are all my pictures safe problem. And that is an even bigger investment with more stuff. And yeah, the numbers are terrifying when you have 400 million, but almost anything you do with 400 million people is terrifying. I mean, just think about the email they get, and they're not even a big email provider. Like the amount of spam that they get at iCloud.com and Mac.com email addresses alone is pretty terrifying. And that is one of those things that like gets worse as the volume goes up because you get targeted by spammers and stuff. So it's I'm not pretending it's a small problem, but if anybody could do it, it's the company with billions and billions of dollars of cash. And this really is kind of a service. It's not read mostly like iTunes. You're not sharing the same files for everybody, but it's not that complicated. It's file storage. It's not computational or a web application that's all sophisticated. It's basically like a big bucket of bits that you can get back in an efficient manner and all that good stuff. So,
well, but it's more than that. I mean, it's replication, it's backup, and you're right that deduplication is really not an issue, but because there's nothing to be gained from it. But certainly backup and replication and scalability and uptime and access speeds and archival, like all that stuff.
They've already got to do that for PhotoStream. All it does is, 1,000 pictures is still not small change, and if you multiply that by 50 for 50,000 pictures for each person, it's 50 times harder in terms of you need 50 times more storage and 50 times more money and like all the things that you need, right? And you probably can't charge 50 times the price or whatever, but it's not like the PhotoStream itself is already, hopefully all those things you described, they already have a solution for, and it's just a matter of, okay, well now we just need to pour more money in and hopefully find some place to get more money out. Charge more money for users for it. Don't give it to everyone for free, maybe. Maybe make it a $100 a year service, a $50 a year service. Like, there are things you can do, or, again, factor it into the price of your other things. Spread that $50 over the cost of all your other products. Who knows? Like, the money stuff I feel like can be worked out. The technology stuff, they should have all this stuff already in place. And if they don't, they should have this stuff anyway. Just because this is an important thing that companies in the technology sector are going to have at some point in the future. So anyway, they're not there yet. They seem to be making motions in this direction because that document did have a recent modification date saying that the upload limits were lowered. I don't know. Like, we'll know it's happened because they'll have a slide up that says, the slide we previously showed you about PhotoStream said 1,000 photos, blah, blah, blah. This slide just has a single word in the middle. It says unlimited or all your photos or some crap like that. Like, we'll know it when it happens. I don't think it's going to arrive as a secret knowledge base article where suddenly there's no more limits.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing they would want to brag about. That's a pretty big deal. And also, like, they would want people to know that they're doing it. I mean, if they just start quietly backing up more than your last X photos, they're not really getting much of a benefit out of that, customer-wise, PR-wise. If customers don't realize they can now upload everything, then we'll use it differently. We'll think about it differently. So I think it's important for them to be very loud about it if they ever do that.
Yeah, and also, I don't recall if I mentioned this in the last time we talked about Everpix, which thankfully that was so quick when we did because that gives us time to talk about it now. But,
the chat room's going to kill you.
Yeah, I know. But just to really quickly add, if Apple did take this on, imagine how much of a selling point that would be for your normal human that they look at it, they know enough about the landscape to know that, well, Windows Phone Series, Mobile 7 Series, Metro, not Metro, doesn't do any of the fancy photo things we want. The Android phone that everyone is telling them to get, well, that looks nice and all, and I really like that big screen, but I tell you what, this iPhone will back up all of my pictures for me automatically, and I don't have to worry about it. Why would I not get that? So when I take pictures of my kids, grandkids, dog, car, whatever, I know I will never, ever, ever lose any of them. And that would be a real selling point. But again, it's really hard to do and to get right. So, I don't know.
A lot of people have been telling us about Google Plus and how they back up all your stuff, and some people even mentioned Dropbox. And the Google Plus, I think, is worth addressing because I think Google is signed up to like, hey, we'll save all your photos, we'll do all this great stuff for you. And the reason it never is on my radar for something that I want to do is because Google Plus and the whole stuff associated with it, which is now almost everything that Google does, is a social network. It's a social sharing service. And I would never take my family photos and give them over to a service that's a social service. Like I wouldn't, if Facebook said, hey, we'll take all your photos and preserve them forever, I wouldn't do it. And same thing with Google Plus, because the whole purpose of those services is to share things with other people. And my photo collection is by default something I don't want to share. In fact, all I want to do is selectively pick maybe a handful of pictures and share them with selected people like I do in PhotoStream. I never want to take, here's my entire photo library, jam it up to a social network service. Even if it has controls that say, oh yeah, no, it'll be private by default. Everything you upload won't be shown to anybody unless you explicitly say it will. Don't forget to check the chat. Like, even if all the defaults are right, even if all the heart is in the right place, it doesn't make me comfortable to take all my photos and put them on a social network, because that's not like, I don't want to share them with the world. I'm just looking for somebody to store my pictures, like Everpix did.
Right. And I know briefly. I saw briefly, I know I saw a lot of feedback. Oh, just use Flickr. And I actually engaged with somebody who was like, well, yeah, but they default to sharing all your pictures. No, you don't need to default to sharing all your pictures. But I completely agree with you, John. That's inherently opposed. Their motivations are inherently opposed to my motivations. And that's just not good. So anyway, and we can move on from this photo stuff. And let me ask you, John, if you were Stephen Elop and you were trying to discuss without actually discussing what you'd do as the next Microsoft CEO, what would you do with Xbox?
Yeah, I didn't actually read all these articles about it was a bunch of leaks presumably from Elop's camp about what he would do if he took over Microsoft. And if you're going to leak stuff like that, like, I assume the idea was to leak things that people would say, yeah, that's awesome. Get this guy, because look what he said he's going to do. Like to make public pressure, Elop or his surrogates or whatever to have suddenly there'd be pressure from the press, from the public, from Microsoft shareholders. You got to get this Elop guy in there because he has some amazing ideas and you guys are a bunch of bozos. But then the ideas he put out seem terrible and everyone seems to think they're terrible ideas. And so I don't know, I don't know if this was an intentional leak by his camp. If it was, maybe they thought these were great ideas, but I don't think they're great ideas, and I don't see anybody else thinking they're great ideas. I mean, maybe they're scary and radical, and that's the vibe he's going for, like he's ready to shake stuff up, there's no sacred cows or whatever, but don't get rid of the one thing that is the one product Microsoft has that's probably the most loved by customers. You can't say it's the most successful product because they had, was it multiple billion-dollar write-down because of the Red Ring of Death on the 360s, and it's lost money for years, and it did start to break even and become profitable, I think, recently, but over its entire lifetime, it still hasn't dug itself out of the hole that it took to get there. But people like it. People like the Xbox. And that's, in the world of Microsoft, it's not easy to say that about much of anything these days. So getting rid of that only makes sense if you decide that Microsoft is not going to be a consumer company anymore. And they're just going to become like Oracle with a different logo. And I don't think that's a win scenario for anybody.
Now, would you try to kind of pull the opposite, or maybe a similar thing to what they do with Windows, and brand everything new, perhaps, that Microsoft does with Xbox this and Xbox that? And what I mean is, they take the Windows mobile, whatever, Windows Phone series, whatever. And personally, as soon as I see Windows applied to anything, I get a little grumbly. Do you think if they rebranded things with Xbox that maybe that would be better? I mean, clearly that worked for Comcast and Xfinity, so why wouldn't it work here?
Because everyone wants to use the Xbox phone, and their IT department's going to love that.
I mean, I agree, but it seems like Microsoft could use some help in there in any sort of branding situation. I don't know, Marco, you're the king of brands. You tell me.
I mean, part of it is, I don't know. Their branding is pretty terrible, and their marketing is even worse, and especially their advertising is just the worst. But ultimately, they could have this terrible advertising and those terrible names for the products, and they could get away with it if the products were really amazingly good and compelling to buy. And the problem is they're just not. Office, people love Office, or at least they use it. I think people really do love Office. It really is very good for what it does for the most part. Windows, I feel like some people love it, most people just kind of use it. Everything else, you just kind of use it because it's there or because it's what your business uses or whatever. Except, the consumer stuff like Xbox, that's a different story. But the things like Windows Phone and even Windows 8 and the new, the Surface and things like the Surface, the whole line of like Windows 8 convertible tablets or pure tablets, slates, I guess they call them still. All those things are just not that compelling. And that's the biggest problem in the market. It's not that they have stupid names. It's not that they have dumbfounding commercials. It's that these things just aren't getting any traction with consumers. And I don't think there's anything small they can do to fix that. I think this is a big problem. It needs a big solution, and I'm not sure they can deliver it no matter what they call it.
Xbox was actually kind of a triumph of the anti-branding thing, because I'm sure a lot of somebody's wanted to call the Microsoft game console something with the word Microsoft in it or something with the word Windows in it. And there must have been a fight, and the Xbox guys won that fight. It's not, Microsoft Windows Xbox or Xbox for Windows or Windows Game Machine or, anything like that. It's just Xbox. I'm sure Microsoft is somewhere on the box, but the Xbox brand is not tied to Microsoft. It is not tied to Windows in the same way that all the other things you just mentioned are. And I think the Xbox brand has such, value at this point that you made a joke about, what if they named everything Xbox? If they made something, the Xbox One does all sorts of non-gaming stuff. And if they called one aspect of that non-gaming stuff Xbox TV, they didn't. I don't think they have anything branded that way, but it basically is Xbox TV. But if they called something Xbox TV and it worked kind of like, we'll take like what the Xbox One does. We'll take your TV in as an input and overlay stuff on it and let you switch back and forth between games and blah, blah, blah. I think that branding would work because people like Xbox and people would like the feature set, presumably. So I don't think that's entirely crazy to take Xbox and put it as a prefix instead of something else that's related to what the Xbox does, as in a box that connects to your TV that does interactive things.
Once again, we have back as a sponsor this week our friends at Hover. Hover is high-quality, no-hassle domain registration. Use promo code ATP for 10% off anything there, new or old, add-on, or brand new domain. So, Hover.com/ATP. Hover takes all the hassle and friction out of owning and managing domain names. They offer smart, easy-to-use, and powerful domain management tools. They believe that everyone should be able to take control of their online identity with your own domain name, and they will make it easy for you to do so. They're part of 2Cows, which has been around since 1994, which is basically forever, at least on the internet. And it's one of the largest domain registrars in the world. They offer tons of top-level domains. .net, .co, .com, TV, country codes, and many, many more. They recently added .io and a bunch of other ones, and they're constantly adding more, so you can get just about anything. And what I like about Hover a lot is that they don't believe in heavy-handed upselling or aggressive cross-selling. They don't believe in hiding functionality or requiring extra payment for things that really should be free, such as who is privacy on your names, subdomains, and URL forwarding. They also have a whole email hosting service, if you'd like. It's optional, which is easy and affordable to create a memorable email address. And so you can get rid of that weird free webmail email address that you don't control, like something at gmail.com or at yahoo.com or whatever. They offer excellent online help, too. And this is something that really, their whole support system really sets them apart from the rest. Not only is there tons of online documentation, online tutorials covering pretty much everything you could possibly need to do with a domain name, but they also have this awesome no-hold, no-wait, and no-transfer telephone support. I actually said telephone because it's that good. You call this 866 number that's on their site, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, and you will be speaking to a live person who picks up the phone without having you wait on hold for 15 minutes. An actual live person picks up the phone who is empowered and eager to help you out. So this is pretty great. Go to hover.com/ATP for high-quality, no-hassle domain registration. And once again, use promo code ATP for 10% off. Thanks a lot to Hover for sponsoring.
So, John, since you're apparently queuing everything off, or kicking everything off this episode, how is the enterprise software experience treating you these days?
I have this big, long sob story about enterprise software. I was trying to debate whether it fits in with it would fit in on a complaining podcast if I had such a thing. But
this isn't it.
This is your enthusiastic appreciating everything podcast.
You ever think if there's some kind of lesson to take about like what not to do? or something like that. I don't know. You can tell me. I can try to go through it quickly if that's at all possible.
I would love to hear you attempt that.
Yes, indeed.
My version of attempting that is I talk really fast. That's probably not what you want. All right, so this is a story about enterprise software, and we've talked about enterprise software on past shows, and my sort of thumbnail sketch of enterprise software is that the people using the software aren't the people who purchase the software or selected the software if it happens to be free. And so this is a story of just such a kind of piece of software. So before Mavericks was released, my work changed its VPN software from a VPN that worked with the VPN support that's built into OS X to one that requires a third-party client. And so here is enterprise software assumption number one of this story. When a new version of OS X comes out, assume your enterprise software will not work with it. And that might seem like a weird assumption, but like I when I was sort of sketching out the notes for this, I'm like, you know what? I do just assume that. I just assume that when the new version of OS X comes out, most of my favorite programs will work with it, but of course enterprise software won't. And I don't question it, but I thought, like, why is that? There are months and months to lead up to a new OS X release. Like, there's a developer conference, there are developer builds, like they give you and it seems like all these companies are just shocked that Apple came out with a new operating. We've never seen anything like this before. Where did this come from? Mavericks? Who heard of that? And then that day after it comes out, they start work on, they find out on that day whether their stuff works for it. I mean, it's almost as if I'm not sure that enterprise software companies have anybody actively working on their software products, or at least on the Mac software, right? And it's always just like in reactive mode. I mean, Oracle went years, and no one cares about this except for people who do stuff in my line of work, but Oracle went years without a 64-bit client library that worked in OS X. Like years. I think they spanned like 2 or 3 OS X releases without anything that worked in 64-bit. Because they just, couldn't be bothered. It's like, who cares? Whatever. So anyway, sure enough, Mavericks came out. My enterprise software did not work with it. And this is Cisco VPN. I might as well just name names. Why not? I don't think they're going to sponsor the show. Sorry, Cisco. Cisco seemed, genuinely shocked that Mavericks was released, and they seemed shocked that their software didn't work with it. They're like, look at that. Our stuff doesn't work with it. And they said, well, the existing version kind of worked, except it might frequently disconnect, which is like, all right, well, then it doesn't work really, does it? Because if it frequently disconnects, it's not really what I want out of VPN software. And so, I couldn't upgrade till Mavericks until the VPN software is updated. So a short time later, I think it was only a couple of weeks, Cisco Update has a version that was compatible with Mavericks. So this is thumbs up on Cisco. See, maybe they will sponsor. Because unlike Oracle, they didn't wait 3 years. Only weeks after Mavericks was released. Now, granted, it still sort of drives me crazy because, you should not have found out when the OS was released that your software wasn't compatible and then scrambled for a couple of weeks to have a compatible version. But anyway, the new version said it has a workaround for a bug that's in Mavericks, and they filed the bug with Apple. And this version should work until Apple fixes the bug in their OS, which I completely believe. Again, this bug should have been filed 7 developer releases of Mavericks ago, but whatever. But in the meantime, here's one that has a workaround that shouldn't disconnect. All right. So then we come to enterprise software assumption number 2. You will not be able to get the software you need. Can I download this new version of this VPN client that's compatible with Mavericks? First step of that is trying to find it on Cisco's website, which is not easy if you ever tried to find this type of thing. You would think it would be right there next to the words I read that told me they had a new version, but it's not, because that was like in a forum somewhere with some Cisco person.
Oh, God. This is reminding me of when I had to install RAID drivers for RAID cards on Linux. It's exactly the same thing. Like, you have to dive through these crazy enterprisey sites, and good luck finding anything. And then they want you to join their program for their premium support and everything. It's like, no, I bought the card. I just want to download the thing that makes it work. And, a mess.
Yeah, whenever you find yourself in a forum, almost especially if it's an official forum, this is not just some random forum with a bunch of people. Like, there's an official person from the company responding to the forum. I mean, this is what drove the creation of Stack Overflow for one and Discourse for another. Like, if you find yourself in a traditional forum, scrolling through pages and pages of replies, looking for the ones from the official Cisco guy, trying to it's like replaying the journal on a file system. Everything comes back to file systems, guys. It's like replaying the journal on a file system to reconstruct the history, to zoom up to the current day, so that you have to read these giant threads to find the information. But anyway, I eventually found the page that had this text on it. I copy and pasted a lot of stuff from the website because I just love the copy from these websites. So anyway, the following directory contains versions of AnyConnect for all platforms. The current download for OS X is version 3.1.04074. That's a real version number for enterprise software. And all other platforms are 3.1.04072. AnyConnect version, big long number, is required for OS 10.9, and all other Mac platforms may either use one of the old versions. Anyway, so underneath that tiny, tiny, tiny text is a huge scrolling iframe containing many, many downloads, most of which are not from my platform, including items like, with text like this, package enables FIPS, all caps, for Mac OS X, all one word, squished together, Intel in scare quotes for some reason, platform. So package enables FIPS for Mac OS X, Intel platforms. File contains the VPN API for Mac OS X spaced out this time, Intel platforms. Standalone DMG package for Mac OS X, Intel platforms. Web deployment package for Mac OS X, Intel platforms. All of these are the old version number, despite the note on the top saying that you want to have the new version number. And I don't know which do I want. FIPS? Do I want VPN API? Do I want standalone DMG package? Do I want web deployment package? No instructions in that regard. Easiest way to find what I want was to search for the version number string on the page. Do in-page, in-browser, search for the thing. Because then I found way down, instead of, you scroll past 100 of these things for Linux, for Windows, different versions of Windows, different platforms, different versions. Eventually I found the one that I want. And the thing, I guess the take-home lesson of this is the next time you're on some web developers, some developer's website, and it auto-detects what platform you're on and gives you a gigantic, shiny, red, glossy button with a download link for the latest version of their software for your platform, appreciate it. Because that's not how, you know what I mean? When you go to a website and, that's what they want you to have. You want to go to some indie Mac developer. It's just a gigantic button that says download now, download right here. Even if it's a link to the Mac App Store, that'll take you right to the thing. Not on enterprise software. You have to hunt for the download link, and there'll be decoys like all those ones I just read, and you have to know what FIPS is, and I don't, no explanation of this stuff. A bunch of these are tar GZs too, just to throw an extra monkey wrench for the non-tech savvy. So I find the download link that I want, I click it, and no luck. I get a message saying I have to log in. Right? So, okay, well, I figured that would be the case, because they're not going to just let you download their software. That's crazy. Like Marco said, you have to register an account. You can't just have the thing. So I register, I create an account, I check my email for the confirmation message. I click the confirmation link. I'm all set. I attempt to log into my new confirmed Cisco account, and I get this error message. Again, word for word. Your login was unsuccessful for one of the following reasons. You entered your user ID and or password incorrectly. Please try again. That's a bulleted item. And here's a second bulleted item. You recently registered or reset your password, and our systems are updating your information. Please try again in 5 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Slave lag? That's actually an error message.
So then we come to enterprise software assumption number 3. What works in the rest of the world does not work in the enterprise world. In the rest of the world, if you create an account and they email you a confirmation link and you click it, you go through the whole, of course you can log into that account. You just confirmed it. Hell, most of the time you can even partially log into it even if you haven't confirmed it. It'll just say, oh, you haven't confirmed your email yet, right? But in the enterprise world, merely creating an account and clicking the confirmation link doesn't mean you can log into it, right? So yeah, so I wait 5 minutes, right? Same error. I wait 10 minutes, same error. 15 minutes, same error. And I'm thinking well, maybe I mistyped my password. Maybe I mistyped it twice during the account creation process. It's possible. Or maybe I had the cap locks on or some crazy thing like that, right? So I reset my password. Thankfully, they have a forgot your password link, or I would have to go off into another realm, because sometimes they don't even have a forgot your password link. You can call somebody or something. I reset my password. It sends you an email, click this link to reset, type in new password. I try logging in with my newly reset password. And what I, of course, get is that same error message that says, you entered your user ID and or password incorrectly, please try again, as one bulleted item. Or, you recently registered or reset your password. And I did recently reset my password. And I realized, that's not going to help me, because if I get that error message, again, this error message says, your login was unsuccessful for one of the following reasons. And it gives 2 possible reasons. 1, user ID and password incorrect. 2, you just recently registered or reset. Well, I did just recently reset.
Right, it's actually 4 reasons.
Yeah, well, yeah, 2 bullet points. Please try again in 5 minutes. I wait 5 minutes, wait 10 minutes, wait 15 minutes, wait a whole day.
You actually did it again?
Waited a whole day. Like, who knows? It was with enterprise software, like, maybe, like you said, maybe it hasn't maybe, like, some person has to write it down on a form and, like, mimeograph it and, like, put it in a pneumatic tube and, like, I don't know how things get, into the real database. And some person has to enter into an Excel spreadsheet and someone prints that Excel spreadsheet and then sends it FedEx to the Topeka office, and then the Topeka office enters it in their COBOL system, and then finally you can, I don't know how it works, right? I gave it a whole day, same error message, right? And this is a repeat of enterprise software assumption number 3. It works in the rest of the world. Doesn't work in the enterprise world. Create an account, you can't log into it. Reset your password, you can't log into it. So now I'm in desperation mode, and I email like the support link, right? Find on the website something like technical support for the Cisco website, right? Here's the entire text of my email. I can't log into my account at cisco.com. I gave the username as well. I've tried resetting my password. Each time it says it succeeds, but each time my new password still does not work. Like, I think that's straightforward. I don't know what else to tell them. Like, I gave them my username. I said that I can't log in, and their first thing is going to be like, oh, maybe you forgot your password. You should probably reset it. So I felt like I should tell them I've reset my password several times, actually, because I did do it several times. And each time it says, yes, we've reset your password, but each time I try to log in again, my newly reset password doesn't work. That's all I said. I didn't have to go into this big rigmarole about the weird messages and stuff like that. I figure maybe there's something weird on my account, or I'm locked out, or they should be able to see on their end failed login attempts or something. Who knows? So I got a response about 12 hours later, which is pretty darn good. And I'm not being sarcastic about this in terms of like customer support for any company. 12 hours is a pretty good turnaround time on a support email, but especially for a big company like Cisco. Here's the reply. Dear John, thank you for contacting Cisco. By adding star.cisco.com to the trusted sites, you are able to log in successfully. How to do it? ? Follow these easy steps. Period. Just this crazy punctuation. A. The steps are labeled with letters. Capital A. Period. Click the Tools button, then click Internet Options. Anyone who has those Windows knows.
Oh, yeah.
B, click the Security tab. C, now click Trusted Sites, then click on the Sites button. D, and it goes through the whole instructions for in Internet Explorer adding star.cisco.com as a trusted site, because I guess the assumption is my problem is that I can't log in because it's not a trusted site. I didn't say anything about trusted site. I didn't send them any screenshots. I didn't mention platform, but this is the canned response I get. All right, so okay, forget about that. Time to get creative. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier, but I made an incognito window in Chrome. Or the equivalent of deleting cookies. Like, just start with a fresh slate, right? And I go to...
You can call it porn mode. It's all right.
Is that what they call it? The kids call it these days? And I go to the login form, and I enter my password, and it works. I log in. I see at the top of the page, like, my username. I can go to my account. I'm like, hey, my account, it works. Everything works great. And so I re-navigate to the download link. I click on it, and it asks me to log in. And now I read the message, the message that it shows you when you try to click on the link, the message that was there the first time, but that I didn't finish reading because I'm impatient. It said, to download the software, you must log in, and it had a link to log in. And the first time I encountered this problem, I immediately clicked the login link, and it went through, you don't have an account, create an account, blah, blah, blah. But that message continues. You must log in and have a valid service contract associated with your Cisco.com. So this is enterprise software assumption number 4. Sometimes, despite all the terrible things that are terrible about enterprise software, it's at least partially your fault. If I had read that message the first time, I probably would have stopped this process and said, well, I don't have a valid service contract associated with my Cisco.com profile. In fact, I don't even have a Cisco.com profile. But instead, I read, to download the software, you must log in. Login was blue and underlined, and I clicked on it, and I went off. So I, like every other user, doesn't read all the messages, just gets to the part that I want to get to. So I can't get the software myself. I don't have a service contract.
I'm sorry, can I pause you real quick?
Go for it.
How long between the first time you saw the login link and clicked it and the realization now that you needed to read the rest of the message? Because you mentioned at least a 12-hour wait, right?
Yeah, so like I tried it one day and went through this whole big thing, and then it kept asking me to wait, so I said, fine, I'll wait till tomorrow. And then I tried it the second day and then did the email thing and then got the email back, I guess, the third day. Like, I'm not, like, sitting there hammering this. It's just each day I make another run at it, right?
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. So carry on.
And by the way, I think the problem with the incognito window thing is that it probably cookied me seeing that, oh, he was trying to get to destination X, but before you can get there, we have to send you off on this tangent to create an account and log into it. And I think what happened was I went off on a tangent, created an account, and every time I went to the login form, it was trying to send me to the destination that I didn't have permission to get to. So every time I logged in, it would probably accept my authentication, try to send me to the destination, and then bounce me back and say, oh, you can't get this because you haven't logged in, and send me back to the login form. And of course, the error message doesn't say anything about that, and the error message is terrible anyway.
That wasn't one of the 400 error possibilities?
Yeah, no, it's like... why else would clearing cookies, why else would the equivalent of clearing cookies allow me to get logged in? Because it just dumped me on the home page then, right? So I couldn't get the software myself, so I figured, let me try to get it the way that my work says I'm supposed to get it, right? And their instructions, which I've done before, obviously, because I have the existing version of this VPN software that works in Mountain Lion, is make sure you're not on the VPN step one, which is always striking me strange. But anyway, and go to some special URL, log in with my special work credentials, load a Java applet that will try to detect my platform and send me the file. And most of this time, of course, this doesn't work, right? Because my login credentials work, but then sometimes it bounces me back to the login page, and then that whole browser is fried, and you need to clear cookies or quit the browser and relaunch it and have a chance at it. Or sometimes the Java applet won't load, or the Java applet hangs and says it can't detect my platform, so I try Chrome, I try Safari, try Firefox. I can't try IE in my VM because it auto-detects your platform. And if it works in IE in Windows, but then it gives me the Windows version of the VPN, which is useless to me. I need the OS X version of it, right? So I always fight with this. I'm used to it. Eventually I get it downloaded, look at it. Of course, it's still the old version, all right? So now I just have to wait for work to update its old version of the software. And this is kind of the state I'm at now, which is like, I can't get the software myself. I have to wait for my office to update the version of the software. I told them at the beginning of this process, before I started any of it, I had sent a support ticket and said, hey, can I have the version of the VPN that works with Mavericks, blah, blah, blah. But I know the turnaround times are really long on that. So while this was going on, I was figuring, well, let me try to get the thing myself, right? And the question is, I guess, why does this have a downloader? Like, why does it require a service contract? Why are all these things that just happened to me, why are they there? Why isn't this VPN installer just a download link on Cisco's website? Why isn't this just on a share in my work that I can get? And I guess it just comes down to control. Like, IT departments at offices want to have control because they don't want to just let anybody install any VPN software they have to, qualify it to determine that it works with all the other software that it's qualified to work in the company or whatever. And it makes sense from their perspective because it's the best way to have predictable results when you're supporting hundreds and hundreds of people. You got to have a set of approved software. Nothing new goes in that set until it's tested and you make sure it works with all the other approved software. And you can't just let users download whatever the hell they want to install on their computers. Like, that's the opposite of IT support. And we can, get into a whole nuanced discussion about whether that's the right model for IT support or whatever, but it's the current model. And computer nerds are the worst, like, because we just all want to do it ourselves. And yeah, I do want to do it myself, but it's kind of like how they say doctors make the worst patients. I think computer nerds make the worst people to support in IT, and I'm sure the IT department hates the fact that I'm like emailing them, can I have big giant version number of this piece of software because it works with this version of the OS and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
There's this whole culture of people who really, really don't like Apple. Like, period. They just don't like Apple. And they don't like Mac in all capital letters. And I have to wonder, like, I bet the percentage of people who manage IT departments at large companies, I bet among them, the percentage of them who are the kind of people who hate Mac in all capitals is way higher than average. And just culturally, I guarantee you that's the case. and so they don't like it, they don't respect it, and I think that also applies to enterprise software developers as well. And I think that's partly why, like, the enterprise software people are always totally caught off guard when a new version of OS X comes out, because they don't respect Mac people or Apple or the platform enough to actually pay any attention whatsoever to the betas, or to prioritize the releases that fix horrible bugs that only affect Mac people. I really think that it's just this whole culture of like, well, you people who want to use Mac all capitals, you're just like this annoyance for us, and that's not real software. And anything that goes wrong, that's definitely a Mac in all capitals bug, and that's not our bug. That's their bug, and they mess something up because Apple's stupid. I bet that's a lot of this.
That was definitely the Oracle vibe, but the vibe from Cisco is weird though, because as soon as the forums lit up with like, "Hey, Mavericks is out and my VPN doesn't work," because this is a widely used product, it seemed like the official Cisco people were genuinely concerned about this failure and didn't know about it. Like, "Oh my God, our stuff doesn't work with the new version. This just came out. How could we have known?" Like, they're either not aware that there are developer builds of it, or and the thing is, they reacted quickly. Like, they got a new build up in weeks. It was less than a month. Like, that's pretty fast for enterprise software for such a wide business. Got to go through all, they reacted like this is important. We need to have a version of this that works with. But if that was it's baffling to me. Like if they're so concerned about it, like this didn't have to be this way. You could have known this was coming by being part of the Apple. Like not everybody, but just one dude in the company, right? And the other thing is, I always picture in these companies there is like one guy who's like a Mac user, the one guy they have working on the Mac software. Surely that guy is a big Mac nerd, and maybe he's held back by his bosses or something like that. But I don't understand why. A little one-person indie Mac software developer shop can make sure all of his software, all of his 17 applications that he's written over the years, are all work on Mavericks, and have his software ready before the official public release. And I guess Cisco can't. I mean, maybe it's because they're a big company, because they're slow moving. I don't know. Just like, and it's not just a big company. Like Adobe's software, I'm assuming, worked in Mavericks. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it, but the enterprise stuff I do understand, even a little bit. Like with the VPN stuff especially, you can't just download software. Like the software they give you from that Java thing is pre-configured with all the values for your company. And again, that's better for, because most people in the company aren't tech nerds. So you just want to give them something and just says, look, just run this. It'll be all set up for you, which is convenient. But it also means that even if I was able to download that software from Cisco, I would have to then know all the different values I have to put in. What is the server name? What is the port? What is the protocol that I have to check here in this checkbox, and all that stuff to get it configured. So I would have to download the official version and try to dig into it and find like plist files or other configuration things to figure out what all the values are, or try to ask IT, which is, hey, can you tell me the values to self-configure? They'd be like, what are you doing, self-configure the VPN client? You can't do that. You can only download our official one, and we're not up to that version yet. You really don't, So I'm a pain in the butt. This was mostly / partially my fault, but enterprise software is also terrible.
It is. And I think I might be able to explain some of that. But before I do that, Marco, is there anything else that's awesome that you'd like to tell us about?
There is. It is our wonderful friends at Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use offer code ATP11 for the month of 11. Squarespace is constantly improving their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. They have beautiful designs for you to start with, and all the style options you need to create a unique website for you or your business. It's incredibly easy to use, and if you end up needing any help at all, they have an amazing support team that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with over 70 full-time employees based in New York City alone. So Squarespace starts at just $8 a month, and that includes a free domain name if you sign up for a whole year. Every design, they have these beautiful templates. I mean, really, you can do as little or as much as you want to customize them. I chose to do very little for the ATP site, and it still looks amazing because their built-in themes are just that good. So these themes, they're built by professional designers. They've won awards. They even all come with matching mobile templates. They have these responsive designs that are really fantastic. They look just like the rest of the site, so it looks on theme, on brand, if you will. And it's really fantastic. Your content will look great on any size screen, on any device. You can start a free trial today with no credit card required and start building your website right now. When you do decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use our offer code ATP11 to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for ATP. Thank you very much to Squarespace for their very frequent and awesome support of ATP. They're everything you need to create an exceptional website. Thanks, Squarespace.
You should change our template. All these cool templates that Squarespace has.
You say template?
Template? Is that how you want to say it? I say template. Anyway, there are cool ones. I see them.
It also says Mario.
I see there are cool ones. I see them on other people's website, and ours looks kind of boring. So can't you just change it by clicking something and changing the template?
That can be your homework for the week, John.
No,
I don't have the login credentials to the Squarespace site. I'd be adding rotating CSS3 cubes all over that site.
Oh, somebody please send me the code to do that.
That's easy to find. Just type CSS3 rotating cube. You'll find it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do not give him the login credentials, Marco.
Now I'm tempted to.
No.
He can finally fix all the typos I make in the show notes.
Oh, give me the login credentials then. Don't give them to John. He already is doing way too much planning, as evidenced by the last segment. So
yeah, that sounded a lot like preparation and notes to me.
Well, because once this process started, I'm like, I need to write this stuff down because the details are important. The exact error message. If you just say I tried to do something, then it was a bunch of errors and stuff. It doesn't you really need to get the details. So I wrote them down.
John, let me tell you, if we're all honest with each other, the people come to the show for me and sort of kind of for Marco. You're just a tag along. I will kick you off my show if you continue to do this kind of preparation. This is unacceptable. I'm just letting you know. You're on notice. So earlier, KJ Healy in the chat said, think of it this way. People who develop Minecraft mods as children grow up to be enterprise software authors as adults. And I think that might pretty much sum it up.
The Minecraft mod authors are way more enthusiastic and dedicated than these enterprise people. They totally want to be. They are like, as soon as a new Minecraft version, they have like, here's a version of my mod that works with the beta of 1.7, and they track the betas. This works with the second beta of 1.7. And when 1.7 official comes out, you can be damn sure their mod works with it if you can ever find the download link and if you can figure out how to install it. And if you have all the prerequisites that they don't mention, because they assume everybody knows.
Oh man, I mean, and enterprise software is a hard problem. I mean, it's like, I have a small amount of experience in it because my first job after college for a couple of years was writing enterprise software, and it was a little different. It was a very small company, but our customers were very big companies, and it's just a tough business because any effort I would want to put in for making things better, improving the UI, improving the design, improving the flow of anything. The customers didn't really care. Nobody ever asked for that. When I would actually get to spend some time doing it, and I would work on it for like a month, no one cared. No one said anything. It didn't get us any more sales. It probably didn't result in any benefit to the company at all, actually. And because, as you said, John, at the beginning, like with enterprise software, the people who make the buying decisions usually are not the people who are going to be using it every day. And so it's just this bizarre market where it is a big market and there's a lot of money to be made there, but it just does not work the way you'd expect based on consumer software. It's just very, very different. All the incentives are different. The whole process of making and selling and maintaining it is extremely different. And it's just this weird, bizarre alternative universe that people like us who are mostly in the consumer side just can't possibly understand. And I think we're better off for it.
Well, that's mostly true. So as someone who has kind of a leg in both universes, I can tell you a few things. Firstly, I've noticed at my company, so I work at a consultancy that's somewhere around 60 to 80 people. I forget exactly what the number is now. And we typically work on the Microsoft stack, but not exclusively. And I will tell you that I've noticed since I started at this particular company about a year ago, a little over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago now, I was one of the few people to have a Mac because I pretty much negotiated on the way in that I'm not going to have a PC or this conversation's over. And so I was one of a handful of people that had a Mac. And now I'm noticing that there are way more Mac users, not only developers, even the executives are using various flavors of Macs more and more with each passing day. And in fact, our singular IT guy, he just decided, I've got a 15-inch high-res anti-glare MacBook Pro just sitting in the closet. Maybe I should use that myself. And similarly, his Android phone, I don't remember specifically what it was, about
they're all
a
the
month
same,
and a
right?
half ago. Right. Well, and there's a million, but they're all the same. But anyway, the point is...
It's like cats.
Exactly. So about a month ago or whenever it was, I guess it was right around the time the 5S came out, he said to me, hey, my Android phone's headphone jack is busted, and I use that for all my music everywhere, so I need something to fix this. And I was thinking, if you just got a 5S, Casey, do you have an old iPhone that you want to unload? And I said to him, well, yeah, I have a 4S, but I can't in good conscience give that to you, let alone sell it to you. But, let me see what I can do. And it ended up another friend of mine had a 5, and he, paid my friend for the 5. And so in the course of 2 or 3 months, this friend of mine / our IT guy, went from being an Android and Dell user to an iPhone and Mac user. And so the reason I bring all this up is because in a smaller corporate environment, it's actually starting to be more and more prevalent for even non-technical people like the executives at the company to use Macs. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, with regard to the enterprise software specifically, so we work with all different size clients. We work with extremely small clients, and we work with pretty big clients. And I'm measuring pretty big at, generally speaking, tens of thousands of employees. And if there's anything I've noticed is that, firstly, the group that we're specifically working with can, in large degree, make or break a project. So if the team at the client that we're working with is really enthusiastic and really excited and really wants to build what's right, then we can play off of that and we can build what's right. There are other times that we'll be working with a group at the client that is not enthusiastic and has been beaten down. And just like you said, Marco, when you were at the search engine company, even if we pose the most amazing solution to a problem, it's usually met with, nobody's going to care.
Exactly.
And I think what that comes from is I've noticed in big companies across a couple of jobs now, because I've been a consultant for a while, that in really big companies, it seems like what I would define as middle management. So people that are not peons, but are not really that important either, firstly, there's a million of them. And they all deep down inside realize that they're kind of expendable. And the problem is that they know this deep down inside. And so now it's their mission to prevent anyone else from knowing that they're expendable. So what does that mean? What that means is anytime you're in a meeting, Susie and Timmy and Johnny and Sally and everyone there, all these middle managers need to have...
That's actually their names?
No, of course not. But all of these middle managers need to speak up and let it be known, I said something interesting and I said something important. This was my idea. And because of that, nothing gets done because everyone has to have an opinion about everything. And nobody can agree on everything. And everyone wants to make sure they know that I said that thing. I'm important. I shouldn't be the one to get the pink slip. And it's just soul-sucking, and it's terrible. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of times that is the entire company. But what's almost worse is when you have a group that's really excited and really interested and really cares, and then they're met with so much inertia that's really, or so much, I guess, non-inertia. In other words, the company around them is so stagnant that there's nothing they can do to move it. And again, I bring all this up because what if the Cisco VPN people, hypothetically, knew that Mavericks was coming out and wanted to go to WWDC and really cared that all this was happening, but everyone around them just didn't care and didn't let them take action. And that's what you see in corporate America. And it's mind-boggling to me as someone who lives in or works in corporate America, yet in a very small version of corporate America. It's mind-boggling to me that this works, that these humongous companies ever make any money. I don't know how they do it. It's truly, truly amazing.
Success hides problems.
It does.
There's a bunch of money coming in, and these middle managers can play that. It's like you're funding. It's kind of like the .com bubble when it was a bunch of .com companies selling each other services with their own VC money. I don't know, Marco probably missed out on that the first bubble.
Yeah, I was in college during that.
Yeah, but that was basically very quickly, especially in like the big metro areas, is you'd have VC funded startups selling their services to another VC funded startup, and it was like the strange exchange and swap with VC money until all the money ran out. And then you realize all of our customers were other people who didn't have any customers except for us. And we were all just in this giant big, it's a bubble, right?
And the only winners were the people who made the foosball tables.
Not even them. The real winners were the people who resell used office equipment.
Yeah.
The repo men come in with the big trucks and they come and sell that, you get an error on real cheap.
And the building owners probably made out pretty well too.
Yeah, but high rents for a short period of time, but then lots of vacancies was the problem. Yeah, but so the difference in a company is that presumably they have some money maker, some product or service that got itself entrenched that really does make money over the long term, and that funnel of money fuels internal dysfunction. It doesn't cause internal dysfunction, it literally fuels it. Like there's an engine there of dysfunction running, and the only way it keeps running is if you keep pouring money in, because if you didn't pour money in, all these people doing nothing would get fired, or you'd have layoffs, or something else would happen. But if everything's going well, you guys get to play this game of basically, internal office politics foosball, without worrying, because, hey, the money's coming in and you guys just jockey over who gets the credit for which amount of money that came in and do a source of inefficient internal things. And in that type of scenario, if we're imagining in the Cisco scenario, I guess like the company's still reactive enough that all of a sudden when the customer complaints stop flooding in, that's an input to the company. That's a metric that someone's tracking that has an effect. Oh, customer complaints. We have important customers, big important customers who want this now. Even if it's just like the CEO of some company that spends $1 billion at Cisco, and then he has Mavericks and he wants his VPN to work. Then it's a fire drill and everyone all hands on deck. And maybe that little unit that Casey was hypothesizing, it's like, yeah, we've been telling you that for a week. But like, oh, no, okay, now you get to do it because it's a fire drill and now there's some external pressure to do it. But who knows? Like many scenarios like this could be possible. I just don't know what's going on inside there. And the thing about enterprise software is like, it exists for a reason that is mostly understandable. Like the people in my company who do IT, like Marco was talking about the IT people who hate the Mac. I've had those IT people. I don't have them now. My company has a good IT department that wants to do the right thing and, in fact, are usually enthusiastic about Macs and are trying to support it. Their deficit is maybe they don't have the experience, and so they don't really know, but they're going to figure it out. But their requirements are like enterprise software is made for them. Again, the customers, Marco was saying he'd make improvements to the enterprise software and no one would care. The customers wouldn't care. The customers are not the people using the software. Again, it's enterprise software. The customers are the people buying it. And the things they care about are very different. Like in our company, we're now supporting Macs more or less officially. Like I was the first Mac into the company like 4 or 5 years ago, and now their Macs are everywhere. They're officially supported. But to give an example, the Macs that are officially supported have to run PGP whole disk encryption. And if you're a Mac user, like, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just run FileVault 2? It's awesome. Everybody loves it. Well, because FileVault 2 is not enterprise software, meaning it doesn't cater to the needs of the enterprise. And what are the needs of the enterprise? For like, in my company, for like, compliance with various industry regulations, you have to have the ability to report that, not just install whole disk encryption on all the machines, but prove in whatever way they decide, prove for whatever auditing purposes, that everyone has it installed. And PGP whole disk encryption as enterprise software sells to the enterprise and says, feature checkbox on the back of the box that doesn't actually exist anymore can report that it's enabled on all such and such systems, right? FileVault 2 is not enterprise software. It doesn't have that feature. Maybe Apple Remote Desktop does or some other piece of software that's more geared toward the enterprise. But if you just get a new Mac and it comes with Mavericks and you check off the FileVault 2 checkbox and enable it all or whatever, there's no central reporting structure to know, and they need to do that for compliance. So of course they're going to buy the software package that says, hey, IT manager, we know that you have to do these stupid reporting things because your legal department tells you to. Our software does that for you. And yeah, so of course they're going to go for that. And as a user, you're like, I just want to run the built-in stuff because PGP whole disk encryption bricks my machine every time it runs a minor point update, as it has many times in the past. And like it would be so much easier and cheaper. You wouldn't have to buy this third-party product. We could just enable FileVault 2. It's awesome. Everybody loves it. And IT department, to its credit, wants to do that. But short term, it's like we have PGP. PGP works. PGP fulfills our reporting compliance. And this is the dysfunction in the enterprise, is that those customers have needs that may seem dumb, but they're real needs. And if you're not going to serve them, some enterprise software company will. And that enterprise software company is allowed to be terrible along all the other axes, as long as they're good along the axes that matter to the IT department. And they usually are.
God, I'm just so glad I don't work on anything important.
You should have like a bring your indie developer to work day. We bring in people who work from home on their own projects, and we make them sit through HR seminars and take compliance training courses in Flash.
I would love to watch Marco just sit there and squirm and be uncomfortable 40 seconds into the HR annual "this is how not to sexually harass your coworkers" meeting.
No, that wouldn't be a problem. The problem would be when you'd have me sit down at some Windows PC with some like crap Dell keyboard and say, all right, here's your Fortran terminal, and you're going to be writing financial management software. You have to follow all these rules and do a lot of math, and there's going to be another person sitting 18 inches from your elbow. Oh, wait, that was Bloomberg, and that's why I didn't take that job.
I think we're done. All right, we good?
Yeah, I think we're good. Thanks a lot to our sponsors this week, Hover, File Transporter, and Squarespace. And we will see you next week.
Now the show is over. They didn't even mean to begin, 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. John didn't do any research. Marco and Casey wouldn't let him. 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. And you can find the show notes at atp.fm. And if you're into Twitter, you can follow them at CASEYLISS. So that's Casey Liss, MARCOARMENT, Marco Arment, SIRAC, USA Syracuse. It's accidental. They didn't mean to. Accidental. Tech podcast so long.
Hey, so let's not do ATP and let's just do neutral and talk about John's car.
Yeah, I mean, this is a major event. You know, Casey and I get cars all the time.
Yeah, once every 10 years.
But like the last time you got a car, John, like was the iPod even out yet?
It was.
I'm serious.
Well, my car was more than 10 years old. But we had a newer car because we had a 2007 car. That's the car my wife drives. So we had a newish car. It was like a 2004 before that, and that got totaled and we replaced it with a 2007. I always get the years of our cars wrong, which you would think would be something I know, but I'm thrown off by the whole, model year having very little to do with the actual year distinction. But anyway, we had a 2007 car, which is a pretty new car, but the car I was driving was a 2002 Civic. So, yeah. And this one I assume I will also have for 10 years.
So now you have 2 Accords.
Yep.
How does that feel?
Feels just fine.
It's like that's the most glowing ad for an Accord. How does it feel to have 2 of them? It feels fine.
From John? That is glowing.
This is my third Accord.
That is the Honda Accord encapsulated into a few words.
No, I don't share your opinion of the Honda Accord. I find it
No, you do. I think it's fine.
No, I find it a much more interesting car than other similarly priced, quote unquote, boring cars.
Should have gotten a Mazda 6, but nobody's perfect.
Well, I would have if I had test drove it. The main thing I was test driving it for was clutch, shifter, driving position, and visibility. Like that's what I was test driving it for. Because if I didn't like the clutch and shifter, or the driving position, or the visibility, or like the ride, I guess I would have gone and test drove the 6. But I did like it, and so I didn't even feel the need to go and get it because I really don't like how the 6 looks. I've seen a lot of them on the road, and I would have gone to it if it was like, well, if the Accord was terrible, because I do need a new car. It's like I'm not getting this car for my health because the old car was just going downhill. But if the Accord was good, I didn't see a reason to continue to. And plus, I didn't want to drag it out, so I didn't even bother test driving the 6.
I'm kind of surprised that you're able to get a car at all and be satisfied with it at all, because cars, even great cars, have such ridiculous glaring flaws, especially the interface and stuff. I mean,
yeah, no, it's filled with terrible things. So the good thing about having a new car every 10, 12 years or so is that it's like if you kept like your Mac for years and years and you didn't have a Mac Pro and you replace it. Say you had like a MacBook from 5 or 6 years ago. Any new portable Mac you get, you'll be like, oh my God, this is such a, because so many things change in that period of time. Now, cars don't move as fast as computers, but there are big changes between 2002 and now. So I get to see, let's just see how far standard equipment has come, because I really don't get any options. I don't even think there were any interesting options to speak of in the car that I got. And so all sorts of stuff are standard now. Like my car did not have a little key thing that you press to unlock the doors. And that's standard now on pretty much every car. Like, I don't even know if you can get a car without that.
Wait, in 2007, that wasn't standard?
No, 2002.
Oh, right, sorry.
Like my car. Of course, the Accord had it, right? And I get to see the 2007 car kind of in the middle, but yeah. What else did my car not have? Well, the key fob thing was a big deal because the kids had to wait until I got into the car and hit the little lock thingy, because it did have a little button to unlock all the doors. It just wasn't on the key fob. So I had to unlock my door with the key, get in, and then press the little thingy, and then they could open their door.
Wait. My 94 Saturn, which of course was white before you even asked, you jerks.
Of course it was.
The 94 Saturn I had, if I recall correctly, if you put the key in the driver's door and double turned a quarter turn to the right, it would actually unlock all the doors from the exterior.
Yeah.
You're saying your Civic from 8 years later didn't do that?
There were Civics in 2002 that had this feature, but not my Civic. I'm always buying from the bottom of the line, right? Especially back in the old days, like the stick shift was always the bottom of the line, right? All the other ones came with automatics, right? So, and I'm always buying stick shift cars, so I'm always, I'm not buying sports sedans, and even those don't come with manuals anymore. So I'm always getting the cheap trim levels. Like some more things that are first on this car for me. This is my first car with power seats, and it only has one of them. It's the driver's seat, right? What else is the first on this car? First car with fog lights.
Now, are you a complete tool and use them anytime the headlights are on like me, or are you actually an adult about it?
I don't even know how to turn them on yet. I'm assuming it's somewhere on the same stalk as the headlights, but yeah.
Sometimes there's a separate button like off to the left somewhere.
Yeah, I don't see myself being a big fog light user, but who knows? First car with dual exhaust. It's exciting.
Ooh, fancy.
I'm pretty sure they're real dual exhausts. I have to look under the car. I think one of them could be cosmetic, but I'm pretty sure it's real.
And you were talking about, was it Bluetooth or USB connection for the iPod?
First car with the USB connection. First car with Bluetooth.
So Bluetooth is standard on all Accords. That's really good. That's good to know, actually.
I don't know if it because like this. I didn't actually get the bottom of the line. I actually got the sport level trim is not the bottom of the line. You can get an LX with a stick shift, and I didn't. So this is the first car that I bought that was slightly more expensive than it had to be. Because I could have gotten an Accord manual LX trim level, which would have been less expensive, and not had all this fancy stuff. And
would you get EX?
No, Sport is the name of the trim level.
Oh, that's okay.
It's a separate trim level. Has 18-inch wheels. First car with 18-inch wheels. Has the dual exhaust. Has the fake carbon fiber inside it. Has a leather wrap steering wheel. Also a first. Not heated, of course. That's not. So it's very nice. It's a very fancy car for me. First car I ever bought that was more than $20,000. Even if it just barely crossed over that line. That's a pretty good deal to get like a really nice car of that size class. Even with moderate options, to get that for just over $20,000 is pretty good. No option because the sport trim level comes with all this stuff. Like this optional dealer installed add-on crap that you can get, I think, but I don't think there are any other options that you could get for it to speak of. And maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, but yeah, I'm just taking what it came with. And yeah, it was a pretty good deal. Car shopping always sucks, so whatever. But I got it done in a 3-day weekend.
Yeah, I love car shopping in theory, and then when it comes time to actually go to the dealerships and try to test drive anything and try to find anything, it's such a pain in the butt that I just want to end it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Erin and I went with a friend of ours, and she's looking into perhaps either an S4 or an equivalent. And so, of course, I made her drive an M3 at the local BMW dealer. And this particular M3 was pretty busted. It was an '08, and it had the prior version of iDrive, which I'd never actually seen before. And oh my goodness, all the stories are right. It is that bad. But anyway, we went to test drive this car, and I was thinking, maybe I'll take it for a little spin. And, it was a 6-speed because she actually wants a 6-speed. And I was all excited about it. And the process to get in the car took forever. Once we got out of the car, it took forever. The car was kind of all busted up, and like the second gear crunched. I think a couple wheels were out of balance. We felt the rear tires, and they had no tread, yet the fronts suspiciously had a lot of tread, and it was just not good times. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The actual act of buying a car is terrible, or even test driving a car is terrible. And this was a used one. It wasn't even like it was new. Ugh, gross.
Yeah, I think I've gotten the swing of buying cars, but it's just, especially the cars I buy, there's not a lot of drama involved. There's no rarity. There's no real hunting down of the cars. It's a Honda Accord. That's more or less a commodity. It is a little bit difficult to find the stick shifts because it's trying to search for them. Minor dealers might not have them in stock, but they can get them if you want. But if I'm going to find one that's in stock, I'll find it.
I am surprised that you were able to find one so easily to test drive, though. Like that's usually you can get them to order you one, maybe, but to actually find a stick shift to test drive at a dealer is pretty rare these days.
The internet. I did internet searches for dealers in your area who have this thing in stock and called around as well. But, just a combination of the internet and calling around. That was my first order of business, was first find one of these things that I can test drive to see if I like it. And once I found it, then started the new phase of the search, which is I know exactly the car I want down to the trim level and color, and then just go price shopping. And that's always annoying because nobody wants you to talk to them or come into a dealer or do anything without completing in a sale. And so every single one of them is like, this is not going to end in a sale. I'm price shopping. Nobody likes that. And I tried to do, there's a thing a friend of mine did that it was like, you pay us $200, we do all the crap for you, and we hopefully save you more than $200 on the price of the car. And he was very satisfied with that service. And it's a local website that does it, but the website says they're not taking any more orders. My wife says it was a 2006 Accord, not 2007. I told you I can never remember the model year versus the. Anyway,
I think you just got served.
Yeah. The so that service that does that car buying thing said we're not doing that anymore. Maybe they were overbooked, or maybe they're going out of business, or I don't know. So I couldn't do that. And then I had heard that Costco has a car pricing thing that was similar, and we're a Costco member, so I tried doing that. And that's like, fill out this thing and tell it what car you want, and it will direct you to a dealer. And turns out there's only one dealer in our area that does the Costco thing. And so I did the thing on the internet and filled out this thing, and it sent me some email, and it said, hey, come down to the dealer. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. So I called the dealer and said, hey, I did this Costco thing. Will you tell me, I want to know what is the Costco price for this car? The whole idea was they'll just give you a price that they can't tell you on the website, and it's a no haggle price, and here it is. And they said, oh, we can't tell you the price here. You have to come into the dealer, which, of course, they want you to come into the dealer. Everyone wants you to come in. And again,
doesn't that kind of ruin the point of this Costco thing?
I mean, if it's a no haggle thing and it was a good deal, I just wanted to know what the price was. So, I had to drive all the way up there. Basically, it was just like, I am here because you told me I had to drive here, so you would tell me the price. Now, please tell me the price. And then, of course, they don't want you to go once they tell you the price. They would be like, okay, thank you for the price. I'm now going to leave. They want to say, well, hey, don't you want to buy what's going to take to get you into a car today, and go through all that business or whatever. So eventually I got a reasonable deal. Like this thing was one of the I'm searching through all these websites for, what is the invoice price for this car, and what are local deals like or whatever. And there's like a million different websites that do this. Also looking up the Blue Book value of my car, thinking of trading it in, like the old Civic and everything. And at one of the dealers, the bad cop guy, like there's always the good cop, bad cop.
The sales manager.
Yeah. The bad cop guy pulled up on his computer one of the websites I had been looking at to show, like, here's the range of prices that people are paying locally. And it's like, immediately you go, okay, do not look at that website ever again. Because if the dealer is showing it to you, the information on that website is not going to help you at all. Yeah. And I think I got a reasonable deal. I didn't get an amazing deal like I got on my wife's Accord, because that was just an unbelievable deal. But that was because it was like a car that someone else had ordered and put a bunch of crap on and then bailed out on the deal. And now they had a car tarted up with all these aftermarket extras that nobody wanted. It was a stick shift, and we scooped it up and took it off their hands. So you can't expect to get that deal every year. So I got an okay deal. I was going to say, I got a pretty good deal on the trade-in, considering the car was covered with acorn dents.
Did they give you more than $10?
Yeah, that's like the perfect use of the dealer trade-in, because like dealer trade-ins, like they will underball the crap out of the price, and so it's worth it to just, like, if you have a car like that, that's just going to be really hard to get much value privately. The perfect use for the dealer trade-in.
Yeah, because no individual wants a car, and it didn't have an air conditioning compressor. Like the reason I was getting new cars is the air conditioning compressor would cost over $1,000 to fix, according to the way too expensive dealer or whatever. It's like, all right, it's the end of the time for this car. So I had a car that was ugly. There was a stick shift, covered in dents, and no air conditioning. And like the dealer ended up buying from originally said, we'll give you about $1,000, $1,500 for it. And I'm like, well, that's terrible, because the Blue Book value sans acorn dent. The Blue Book value of the car, if it was not dented, or I guess you put that condition as like fair or whatever, and the air conditioning compressor worked, it was like $2,500 to $3,500, depending. But that was not deducting for the compressor. But I ended up getting $2,500 for the trade-in for it. So I feel like I got a good deal. $2,500 for a 2002. I mean, who knows? Like you just assume that's off the price. Like, are they really giving you $2,500 for your thing, or is it just some negotiating tactic? Bottom line is, I gave them about $20,000, and I got a new car. So, and I gave them my old car. So the end.